Well, the genesis is what makes the world, exist. It's relationship. Then we met in Paris for 3.5 seconds, and look what happened. More or less, it happens more or less at that speed. Many things. So we've kept in touch in time, and when Abhishek called me and said, "I'm building a museum," I said, "Wow, it's not a kind of a message you get often." And he has the idea to make me be part of it and create a special sculpture for the entrance and the reception desk. So for me, it was a great task and an honor and a pleasure. Be in a place, in a museum, which is a place there's more oxygen than anywhere else, especially here. And I started working on the work itself, and we have conversed and exchanged until we found the right thing. Also, the building has a strong presence, or something that have to work with the building and not against it, and become what integrates in a smooth way. The reception desk, I don't really call it the reception desk, because for me, what I call it is functional art, and everything here have to be in that level. It has to be art, and the function of art, and the art of function. So when people, yesterday actually was a really nice moment, because everything was in my head for a long time. So I was standing on the side, looking at, there were two girls working and a guy in the desk, doing the reception, and people are approaching and speaking to them, exchanging. So actually, all the exchange is happening across the artwork. And the artwork is being the bridge, and that's really, really nice. People don't really pay attention to it immediately, but then they walk back and say, "Oh, what is this? How does that?" And they look, it relates to the sculpture in its form. So one is the volume, and the other is the negative space, and that's how this micro installation work.
Arik, someone I was introduced to through a common friend in London, and we met in Paris, and his work had just blown me away. And I don't know what it was, but something told me that the opening of the museum has to have his sculpture in the atrium. And I think it was kind of metaphoric also, those rocks perched one on top of the other. It was almost as to how many rocks and mountains we had to move to make this happen, and also how much we had to balance to make this come together. So it was a metaphor on that, and it's a great combination of science and art. And even the structure of the reception desk, which really is art. And I must say that I couldn't have found somebody better. I mean, MAP is lucky to have found Arik to do this. And what most people don't know is he has gifted this amazing desk to us. And it was a complicated desk to put together, the geometry of that. And you see, it's amazing how nature does this so effortlessly, but man has to do it with so much precision. And nature does this every day, all the time. So it's this amazing combination of art, science, and technology coming together to make this happen. So we are privileged and honored to have Arik's work in the museum at MAP.
I think there's one more point which is interesting and important. Abhishek has suggested that the work will be done here in India. And I was at the beginning, I was like, just because I'm so hands-on, and I visit the workshops, the fabrication every 2 weeks when I make a sculpture, and we follow it, and every little part is giving birth, So for us, it was beyond just making the sculpture and everything that Abhishek has mentioned, and the metaphors I like, which it actually correspond completely to what the work is. It was a journey of conversation and exchange with people we never met, and through the pandemic, so it was like distance at distance. Otherwise, probably I would have come halfway, or my assistant will. And it was made here, and it's well made, and it's looking great. And I think it was a challenge for everybody who participated.
I have to say that, something that we had totally overlooked. in the sculpture, there is this rod that holds it all together. And when I did my calculation after the sculpture was made, I said, we can't carry it in one piece. And after having the rod there, there's no way we can put in the big rock from the top. So then we had to cut that rod and make sure that it would still fit in, and that was a job. Now, these people had never transported something like that. They had never installed something like that. So the same team that we sent to deinstall it there, to move it, had to come and install it back over here. So there was many heart-stopping moments that we went through, but there's a God up there who wanted MAP to have it, and it worked.
I think this is something that we always come across in our initial thought, because we don't see a still tree growing. But still is as natural as wood. It's just one vegetal and the other isn't. So still grows from, it takes some billions of years for it to happen, and we put it together, we take the ingredients, and we have engineered it, human, to become steel sheets or rods or so on. But when you look at first at the sculpture, you're not sure what it is. Because what we do is we oxidize the corten steel in such a way that it doesn't look like a plain material. So you ask the question, and many people actually came to me yesterday and said, this is really nicely done in wood. And then there's this magnet, you're like attracted to it, and you want to touch it and say, oh, it's cold, it's not wood. But when at first you see both are made the same, so much alike, different skin, like every one of us, and this metaphor can be, perpetuated to so many different things through our lives. So in my narrative, is what you see is not really what you see, and the art is not about the art. It's about our life. It's about how we feel. It's about what it makes us do or think, or maybe it revives something 5 years later. And that's exactly what the museum is.
And another surprising thing about the sculpture is, because we are hoping that every couple of years we change the lobby sculpture. So this actually transforms into 5 benches. Of course, you would not be sitting on cotton steel, but there would be a stone slab over each one of exactly that facet to sit, so that you don't stain anything and yet you enjoy the bench.
There's something about how, which occurs often in my work, is that people can change the work, become the master of ceremony. It perpetuates how the combination is done, and then at that appropriate the work. And at that moment, if you have a smaller version of this, or you would have the small one I just given you as a truth of friendship. You'd put it in some angle. Somebody will come and put it in a different angle, and you say, "Why did you put it? I liked it so much the way So suddenly it becomes the person's art. So I'm just an inseminator, and just make these cells develop."